The Hedgeless Horseman here again. Part 2 of the videos today, November 27th, 2024. Last video I ended talking about Integra. Let's look at some companies, just, where I have some, let's say, comments or there's been news or whatever. Silver47, I talked about them recently. They just put out yesterday another hole, or maybe a few holes actually. Okay, 2 holes. One was 2.66 meters of 1.8 kilograms silver equivalent within 22.3 meters of 601 grams per ton silver equivalent. So obviously outstanding hole, that one. I mean, both holes are outstanding. Okay. Yeah. So they did 2 holes and both were really good. Drilled them, yeah, I mean, somewhat. I don't see another angle, but it's like maybe they expected they hit, let's say, high grade mineralization nearby, so it might not have been really a well, look, okay, this is a historic hole, this is, and they drill like that, and then drill like that. Okay, so it's not like they're twinning, they're infill drilling, as they say. Okay, so very impressive grades, obviously. Already a big resource and all that. But going back to just some comments on like how the sector works, for example. So Silver47 was a private company for, I think, a few years at least. So there's been a lot of people tied up in it. It's like, I mean, I had my money stuck in it for 2 years, I think. So on paper, the valuation didn't change, while the sector just got shittier and shittier and shittier. So the private company held up. Let's say I think I said in another video the private placement was at 80 cents. I think it was at 75 cents. Anyway, so then they list, which was, when was that? Okay, so yeah, so around 2 weeks ago, this very month. So it's like you have a bunch of a bunch of shareholders who've been locked up in this stock for at least, I think, 2 years, and then for the first time ever can they sell. I mean, most other holdings probably have gone down in value, so relatively speaking, Silver47 would have gone up in position size in the portfolio. So there's one potential reason why people sell, because, oh, hey, I mean, this is the only, that, okay, all of a sudden this is a higher percentage of the portfolio than when they invested in, and they're thinking, oh, I should draw down the exposure a bit. Again, this is one of those, like, has nothing to do with the company in that case, just rebalancing the portfolio. And I get it. And there might be some people who don't even want to be in the junior space anymore. So as soon as they have their last junior come off, getting publicly listed so they can sell, they might sell, because like they're being pretty sturdy volume. So there's a lot of churn. Then I was gonna say, it's like, it's kind of, I don't know, to me it's kind of irritating, because there's always, I don't know if they're jumping on the opportunity, because yes, a lot of companies, when they go public from being private, there's selling event. So what seems like, I was gonna say, a bit of bashers, like, oh, is this destined to be a dud like Gary's other companies? I mean, I see this guy do this kind of stuff. I mean, what's the value here? Is this destined to be a dud? It's like, okay, let's look at Brixton, for example. Has the share price done well in Brixton? No. Has it been much worse than their average junior? I would say no. But as I point out here, Brixton share price aside, which is down a lot like most juniors, Gary did get BHP, Friedland, Ivanhoe Electric, and Eldorado Gold to invest in 3 different projects. So that kind of tells you about his eye for picking up good projects. But that's what I kind of don't like. I mean, has Brixton been run perfectly or whatever? No, they probably should have done a earning deal with BHP, for example. But it's of course easy to say now, given that the sector shat the bed and share price got slammed, and it cost a lot of money to be drilling those porphyries up in BC. But if they pulled out a philo mining type hole, everybody would be like, "Oh, thank you, Gary. Thank you for keeping 100%, because now this is going to go to $3 billion." So I don't want to judge too much about, again, this is outcome independence, which you get from poker, where it's like you can't just look at what happened and then say, oh, since this happened, that was a mistake. No, we didn't know this was going to happen. That's like, again, saying that, oh, if I go all in with aces versus the worst possible hand, 2-7 offsuit, and I lose, that was a mistake. Obviously, it wasn't a mistake, but the result was a negative one. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't have gone all in with aces. And in this business, in this sector, you never know when you actually have aces. I mean, this is much more Schrodinger's cat situation, where it's like you're making assumption and guessing, and nobody knows the actual. What's the percentage chance that they would hit a philo mining type hole, or half a philo mining type hole, or at least a hole that just whatever kickstarted the where was I? Kickstarted the exploration hype. Like people start to believe that, oh my God, yes, BHP is in Brixton. So I don't like to see us piling on. So it's like I don't know what this guy's deal is. He seems to be doing this a lot, but what I'm saying is, like I told someone today, I think, because their results have been good. I mean, look at their 2.48 meters of 15 grams per ton, 249 silver, a shit ton of zinc, lead, and copper even. Also a great hole, and here we had 2 great holes, whatever. So it's like, is this a legit project? Absolutely. You cannot argue with this being a legit project. And they're already at 168 million ounces AG equivalent. I mean, with this infill drilling, you can obviously tell that it's going to be bigger than that, and that's without the extra exploration stuff. But then we have, again, the fact it's been a private company. You're going to have many reasons for people to sell that has nothing to do with the news releases or what they think the value of the company is, whatever. Then you're going to have people that know that's going to happen and might sell. So you have that, compounding, like, oh, I think this is going to go down, so I might sell now, which brings it down. And the other people are going to sell anyway, so they sell as well. And then you have the facts, like, I'm not 100% sure how much money they have, but it's like, okay, these results are great, but I know the next news release is going to be a private placement. And that's like the boogeyman in this the junior space. So you can see some absolutely, mind-numbing valuations, because simply for the fact that, oh, this company is out of money, so the next quote material news release is going to be private placement, and everybody's been taught that dilution is so bad, where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not like everybody loves dilution, but it's like that's what juniors do. They don't have any cash flow. And I mean the important thing I would think is like, okay, does this project have any value? Is it a real legit project or whatever? But it's like, people, again, like always focus on one news release, for example. So in Silver47's case, for example, I haven't sold a share. I might have been more tempted when it was up at 80 cents or whatever. I think this is a good project. I'm actually on the fence. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to sell any, because I can't promise that. Maybe I need it for a private placement, and this is the easiest stock to be selling at that point in time. I don't know, so I'm not going to make any promises. But it's like, For the family portfolios, for example, who do not have a position yet, I'm kind of liking this. Yes, I mean there's a chance that, let's say, it goes down even more, and then they do a placement. Maybe it goes down a bit more. But like, I mean, let's say it goes down to, I don't know, 24 million. They dilute, so they with 6 million raised, so they're up to like 30 million, 31 million, whatever. So now they get $6 million and they have a 31 million market cap with results like this and a project like this. I mean, to me that looks like a pretty good bet. I mean, it's already a 168 million ounces AG equivalent of high grade stuff. So for the family portfolios, I'm kind of I mean, I don't mind this, let's say, and it's going to be even easier, obviously, to buy the cheaper it gets. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My point might be this: like, focus on what is important. Yes, in the short term, I mean, in a raging whatever silver bull, it's like, it went from $35 million market cap to 31. It's like, oh Jesus, what's happening? Oh, this is a nightmare. Heck, if this was a or if we go into a full blown silver market, I mean, I'm talking a range. Maybe they're gonna trade at 200 million. It's like, oh, who cares if it went from 35 to 200 or 31 to 200, whatever. It's like the big picture. I'm after the big money. I'm after the next big bull market, which is destined to come. I don't play in this sector for like, oh, where's the next 10% move gonna be? Where's the next 20% move gonna be? Who cares? That's like a rounding error. These juniors can go up and down 20% in a week. And that's the thing. It's like everybody's talking about 10 baggers, getting 10 baggers, and it's like, I want fat returns. And still everybody's focused on day-to-day movements or week-to-week movements. Like, that kind of tells you immediately. It's like, they have no shot at having multi-baggers or a 10-bagger. They're following every week return. They're following the return every day and making comments, like reading stuff into it, yada, yada, yada. So I'm just gonna write that too. Whatever. This stuff just, comments like that just piss me off. Like, you don't see me. I mean, you can confirm this. You don't see me getting in any channel out there. It's if I like the company, I have reason to be negative, whatever. I don't go in and bash. It's like, how is this helpful to anyone? I write a lot and talk a lot about stuff I understand somewhat or understand very well. Companies I've researched. How the, let's say, market, functions, like the psychology of it all. Risk reward, odds, and yada yada. I mean, it's like, you can tell if he doesn't care about the company. It's like, already 200,000 shares short. That didn't take long. Okay, wow. Is this destined to be a dud? I mean, obviously he's bashing it. I don't know why. Maybe he wants to buy it lower, or whatever. I don't know. I just hate stuff like that, like petty shit, just dumb comments, basically. Western Alaska, another polymetallic silver play, but this is a CRD, obviously. But this is also kinda in the same sphere, meaning that's like 24 million. Okay. What do people assume the next news release is gonna be? I would say a financing. Okay. If you think, I mean, if there's no assays still out, there might actually be. I think these were the last results that came out recently, where they showed the footprint They expanded the footprint bigly with some good hits, but no barn burner hits. But like, is there potential at Illinois Creek, Water Pump Creek? Absolutely. I mean, they already have, what is it, 75 million ounces AG equivalent of 1 kilogram AG equivalent grade from just basically a thumb sized footprint of the overall district. But again, it's like, can you get rich quickly in Western Alaska? Well, if they have no drill results coming, it's hard to get that, it's hard to drill 10 meters of 2,000 grams per ton silver, or like they did, what was it, a year ago or 2 years ago when they drilled like 100 meters of 500 grams. That's quite hard if you're not drilling. So, okay, immediately, that's a big reason why people are not buying. And of course, if they assume the next thing is going to be a private placement, again, I talked about this before, but it's like a perma license for people to sell. If you think, oh, the next news, I mean, it's the same way why sometimes drill hype works really well. Why actually? I mean, take this. This is on the visuals and all that. Okay, why did that ramp so much? Because the visuals were so good that everybody was convinced that the next news release was going to be a very positive news release. So everybody bought in before. When that was out, that marked the top. Everybody had bought basically. And then they drilled more, but then you have dilution, then the sector just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And now you're in this situation where it's like you're putting out good holes, but not enough to get much buying in this market. And now you have your holes out with everybody expecting the next news release to be a financing. I mean, I hope they get a strategic involved or something that makes people wake up to like, oh yes, right, this is possibly a very large CRD system and could be a world-class project. But I mean, that remains to be seen. But this is, I mean, some of the stuff where it's like, okay, 24 million, is that an accurate representation of the value in Western Alaska? I don't think so. Absolutely not. Not if you already have 75 million ounces of 1 kilogram. I mean, they might need to double it or something, but then it should be a really good mine. I mean, it's like Silvercrest sold for, what, $2 billion recently? So, I mean, if they double the resource, they already have a Silvercrest type resource with similar grades. Capex, I don't know what Capex is. I mean, it's Alaska. It's how would I put it? I mean, it's remote, but not super remote because there's some existing infrastructure because there used to be a mine at Illinois Creek. And then also you have the fact that it's so high grade that you don't need a big operation. You're not talking about a 40,000 ton per day operation. You're talking about a small operation because the grade is so high. And you still get a lot of metal out of it. So I don't think this is representative at all. But again, if you understand how markets function, especially the retail sector function, it makes perfect sense. No way really to get rich quickly. So there's no obvious get rich quick catalyst. Okay, that's going to get people to sell and not buy. If people think the next news release is a placement, then it's like, oh, no price is too low to sell if you think the next news release is, quote, a negative one. Just like no price is too high if you think the next news release is a positive one. So it's like, again, if you understand markets, this shit shouldn't surprise you. And that's obviously what we should be taking advantage of. It's like, okay, I know why the price went down. Okay, I don't think the project is that bad. Okay, actually, there's an opportunity here, for example. That's the stuff. I think I've been nibbling actually in the hodl portfolio, and I mean, I might take some of the placement if they do one. Otherwise, I'm starting to get, let's say, interested in adding around here. But with that said, is Western Lascal is like my absolute top pick right now? No, but it's one of few silver juniors I actually own and like. There's not too many of them. I think most have, I don't know, kind of subpar projects where it's like, I mean, if you have a 1 kilogram resource grade and maybe a new CRD system, is like, yeah, I mean, obviously you have to pay attention because those assets doesn't show up. I mean, how many silver juniors, even polymetallic, have 1,000 gram per ton AG equivalent resource? I don't know if anyone has. Maybe some actually, but anyway. So yeah, I mean, 5 metals, 1 district. You know the deal. I mean, this is where they've been drilling and hitting as well. This is the 75 million ounce AG equivalent, and this is believed to be the fringe of a system. And CRD systems basically claw their way out. So if the Water Pump Creek resource is in the distal part, basically, let's say here or here, it's Eulalia, whatever. The mineralization didn't jump there. It crept on from whatever source all the way. So somewhere there should be mineralization that leads all the way back to the source. But there's faulting and stuff like that, so of course it's not, unfortunately, just like you can drill wherever and find it, but you get mineralization here, mineralization up there, etc., etc. What was I gonna say? I mean, I would love to own this company, for example. I mean, if I had the money, I'm somewhat surprised that larger mining company hasn't actually taken a strategic position yet, because, like, again, if you look at some other CRD systems, I don't yeah, well, it says here, it's like Santa Eulalia, 300 years of production. I don't know how long this was produced, but modified 1968, and they're exploring at Tintic right now. Cisco Development and Ivanhoe Electric is exploring. They're exploring for the primarily maybe the porphyry source, but still, just goes to show, because this is to scale as well. So it's like, okay, you had 300 years production in this, you had whatever, the 100-year production from this, and this is like the known footprint of the Water Pump Creek district, where it's like, there's 75 million ounces AG equivalent here, there's mineralization here, where the source is, I don't know, we know that this is distal, we know they just hit mineralization here, so one would think that maybe the source is around here, because as it says, distal proximal, so this should be closer to the source and this should be farther away. But again, in junior land, it kind of makes sense, and of course, like, if you have this kind of share price development, that's gonna get people to sell as well. Let's say get a bad experience, like, oh, F this, I'm going somewhere else, or yada yada. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it with when expectations and reality is like so far apart. I mean, there's some more extreme examples, like, I was part of Novo, and talk about like expectations at one point being like sky high. I mean, I was all in that stock for a while, and now almost nothing seems to be able to get the stock higher, regardless of, let's say, how cheap on paper it is. And it's like, hey, that goes for me as well. I get affected, so it's like, oh, okay, has it gone up yet? No, okay. So it's like, you can understand how the market works in a sense, because, like, if you can do some soul searching yourself. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things in play here to have Western Alaska end up at 24 million CAD, and it's not like Western Alaska is the only junior that's like has been severely punished, and where you don't think the fundamentals are reflected. I'm just saying that you can kind of understand it. But if we look at actual geology and fundamentals, etc., it's like, yes, this is a very convincing story. So it's like, let's put it like this: the project has not gone the same way as the share price. Like here, the geology was one way at, I don't know how high the market cap went. It didn't go like extremely high, but it might actually been like what, 200 million. And now it's at 24 million. So it's like, oh, that means that everything fell apart. There is nothing here. No, it's not the case. There's plenty of potential here still. Yeah, okay. So first Nordic. The bought deal with Haywood just closed. Happy to see Taj Singh, the CEO, the insider of insiders. He added 1 million shares in the placement at 33 cents. Yes, he got a half warrant as well. But like, I think this might be the biggest insider buy in the junior sector this week, if I had to guess. Only insider buying I've seen been larger than that was I-80, when the CEO bought that stock was crashing, and it's like within 1 week it was up 100%. I talked about I-80 at the time. I thought the selling was probably overdone, even though I didn't have like super high conviction. I bought some, so I made money on that, but obviously the pre-existing shares are still down, whatever. But hey, I mean, again, it's like, okay, I didn't predict that it was gonna go down like that. Then you add some, and then you make some money back. So again, it's responding to, let's say, the gyrations of the market, using the volatility like I talked about in the last video. But of course, there was no guarantee that, of course, I-80 is gonna go up 100% in a week. If I knew that, I would obviously. I mean, that stock is so liquid, so I would have been all in with any money I could get my hands on. So I'm not gonna again pretend like, that made all the difference in the world. But anyway, obviously this is like a big thing, and what I like about this sector is that you can have the insider, the CEO, buy this much stock, and I read that, I think it was Insider Alert that said that 1.6 million units had been bought by insiders. So we see Toby Pierce here, the chairman, 100,000, 1 million. So there's 500,000 more units that were bought by insiders. So yeah, or what's that like? It's almost like $500,000 worth of buying from insiders. Almost $500,000 in a junior. That's pretty substantial. I mean, I see some. Okay, not that every junior is large enough, but I mean, you see insider buys are like $500 and stuff like that, and pretty pitiful. But if the insider buys for 330 million, then it's like, okay, he knows more than anybody else. I mean, he's basically steering the ship. And Taj Singh was a founding director of GT Gold, which got sold to Newmont. He was the COO of Discovery Silver, when they took over the Cordero project for like 10 million or something. Under his leadership, they got it up to a high of 750 million, somewhere along those lines. And it's I think the world's largest silver deposit, undeveloped silver deposit, or one of the largest, somewhere along those lines. So it's not like, this is a random junior CEO. No, he has done it before. He's been He's a mining engineer to boot, and he obviously understands Barcela. Big thing, but I was gonna say, the funny thing is like, you can see this. I mean, the only reason Taj Singh puts in $330,000 at 33 cents is of course because he thinks it's, let's say, very undervalued, and he thinks that this is such an opportunity, and he expects to make a lot of money on his 330,000 buy at 33 cents. And still, the very same day this gets announced, there's still someone selling at 30 cents. Which, I was going to say, prove my point, that there's many reasons for people to sell, because at face value you have to be absolutely brain dead if you think it's a good idea to sell below where the CEO junior, a competent CEO, just put in $330,000. So if you're selling at 30 cents, it's like you have to know more, or at least interpret things more, whatever. I mean, if we're being rational about it. Now, I think whoever is selling, I mean, who knows? He might sell for 1,000 different reasons. I'm just saying, and that's why I've been even adding recently, because to me, it's like, okay, if somebody's prepared to sell shares at 30 cents, for example, when the CEO just bought at 33, a million shares, I feel pretty good, because I cannot get better, in a way, validation for this level being cheap, and it's not just in my own head that I think it's extremely cheap, than to see the CEO take down a million units at 33 cents. So if Taj thinks it's significantly undervalued at 33 cents, what does that make 30 cents, for example? So I mean, you could, I'm not going to say you should blindly buy just because the CEO buys, but it's like, it's basically confirmation that right now everything looks good, and this is very much undervalued. Eloro Resources put out pretty fat intercept, 289 meters of 111 AG equivalent. Includes higher grade intervals like 160 over 122, 146 over 16, 129 over 7.46. I was going to say no surprise. You can read the news release yourself, but it's like, this is not a shocker. It's like this resource, the inferred, or the resource they put out, which was just a snapshot at the time, that was obviously going to grow, and as they've been showing, they're hitting a relatively high grade mineralization over incredible width. So Iska is just going to get better from that last resource. I mean, Quinto went through it at the time. It's like, their assumptions, they assume that, the grade is not going to carry because you haven't drilled between these holes, and yada yada yada. So it was basically a snapshot and a pretty conservative look of what Iska was, and now they're showing it, because Bolivia is a very low cost country as well. So it's, I mean, you probably could have, I mean, I think, this intercept, for example, I think that's higher than the San Cristobal mine grade, and they're doing very well, for example. There were a few. I talked to Tom actually recently, just asked, like, okay, what are the, let's say, next catalysts, etc. So these are my notes. 5,000 meter infill and step out diamond drill campaign adjacent and to the west of the higher grade Santa Barbara edit area is underway. Results out later November, and we're obviously seeing this December and into New Year. Purpose of this drill campaign is to fill in the waste areas. Again, these waste areas are where the model assumed there is no mineralization from first starter pit section of last year's marine upgrade value. Like, yeah, because I mean, if you have a starter pit, I mean, especially if you can show that, hey, this is not waste. This is actually, let's say, good grade mineralization. I mean, for the economics, that's obviously going to be great, because that's why I think it was the Dundee guy, Jonathan Goodman, who said that he always wants to see a good starter pit because it helps so much with the payback, etc. Especially, I would say, especially important if you're in Bolivia, for example, because the perception of Bolivia is that, well, how many are used to it? Even though there are mines operating there and juniors operating there, and San Cristobal has been operating there for like 15 years, still the perception is that it's very high risk, let's say. So then you of course want relatively quick payback. Because hey, if you can make your money back in 2-3 years, I mean, then you're free rolling from then on out. If you know what I mean. Where it's like, okay, if you're in, I don't know, Burkina Faso, and you have like a 6-year payback, even for a what let's say would be like a 50-year project. Yeah, I mean, then nothing has to go wrong for the first 6 years, and then you're free rolling. And typically for some African nations, it's almost like, every now and then there is a coup and all that. Also, tin, which was not in the 12-year starter pit valuation, is looking to be an important add. Once drilling to the west has verified this. An additional 2,000 meters will be for tin metallurgical holes for tin recovery verification, then to be added to the 12-year PA model. So again, there's a few avenues for upside. You have the infill and step out the diamond drill campaign. I mean, the infill drilling has already delivered. It has increased value. Hopefully the step out drilling will increase value. Hopefully the work they're doing on the tin will further increase value. And then of course, I think we're far from having explored this system fully. On top of that, so I think again and this was what I said after it sold off on the resource. First of all, that was a liquidity event, and yes, the sector has been shit, obviously, especially for more like beta plays where the market sees low grade. They see it as an optionality play. I do think Iska is better than the market gives it credit for, but I do think, and I said it then, I think there will be an incremental, like the Iska Eloro is going to climb the value of Iska upwards. And they already delivered that with other news releases already, with their infill drilling, which had some really, really good intercepts. So I mean, if you infill some waste areas in a starter pit, and it's like, oh, this is not waste, this is actually, quote, high grade mineralization for a bulk mining operation, that could obviously do a lot to the economics of that starter pit. So it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, everything counts basically, and if they can show if they can get this tin component in as well, I mean, hey, I'm all for it. I mean, we're in a high-tech world, and tin is, I think, one of the most important commodities, or the most sensitive to like high-tech stuff. And I know some people who think tin is gonna, well, it did have a run, was it last year or 2 years ago? Incredible run. I think there were some shortages or whatever. But it's like it's a high-tech metal, so it's like, I mean, I don't get a lot of tin exposure, let's put it like that. So to have that included as well, I mean, I would be happy for it, because then you get some internal diversification, and you get exposure to a very rare, let's say, metal. So I hope again. My belief is that Eloro will be creeping up the value of Iska going forward, like they're already showing. And of course, I mean, huge underlying beta with their enormous deposit and enormous system. Homerun has put out quite a bit of news. I don't know if I've gone through any of them. Yeah, I think I touched on it before, but they got wait, didn't they have? Well, this is not updated. They put out a news item. Homerun Resources Inc. NRL U.S. Department of Energy Enduring Energy Storage and R&D Partnership. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I can understand all of this, if you know what I mean. This is one of those verticals. Like, do I know for a fact this is going to happen? No, it says testing to date points to promising results of the Homerun silica sand, achieving a surprisingly high purity based on the findings of our research team and the chemistry department at the Colorado School of Mines. And obviously this is also, I mean, not only do you have the U.S. Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Laboratory, you have Colorado School of Mines, which I think is one of the, I mean, most serious and most well-renowned geology, etc. schools in the entire world. This confirms the original thoughts of the Homerun management on the prospects for using the Homerun silica in the NREL thermal energy storage system for purification and electricity arbitrage. Stated Shivan, blah 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 blah. So basically, this is not a quote them from Homerun, but rather from Shivan Ma, Principal Investigator, National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So he's from the U.S. Department of Energy. Saying this. So I mean, hey, I mean, I don't think he's a shareholder. Let's put it like that. So, yeah, I mean, this is pretty exciting stuff. And the thing with Homerun is that it's tech, and it's about my pay grade to understand this stuff. But again, if a guy with the U.S. Energy Department is saying that the results are promising, well, it's like, what's priced in that this is going to work? I don't know. What's it worth if it works? I don't know either. But they're pursuing it, so it's probably worth something. And the U.S. Department is pursuing it, so it's probably worth something in case it works. Maybe it's worth a lot of money if they figure this out. I don't know. But to have a bunch of these verticals, again, like Solar Glass, the CMEX MOU, what do they have else? The laser tech, the femto laser, whatever it was called, to possibly like produce the highest quality and most valuable version of silica in the world, and you can do it green and possibly cheaper than what's being done now, and they can patent that. Yeah, it could be a really big thing. Same with this. And then they have like the phase 2, and that's mostly what they've been releasing. They have like 3 news releases, you know, memorandum of understanding, letter of intent, memorandum of understanding, and that's for the, you know, to ship out washed and sorted silica, which brings me to, I did this, I mean, simply just a spreadsheet of like guesstimating, you know, to get an idea what something could be worth. Like, okay, if this works, what could it be worth? And I didn't use any of the verticals, really. I mean, except for CMEX, the CMEX deal, and this might be what, like up to, I don't know, 2 years out, 2026, 2027 or something. But that could be a, I mean, I'm not saying these are gonna be the inputs. I just know that from what I hear, solar glass sells for like, or it costs you $1,000 to get it from China, for example. And I just put in, you know, 600, because they said in the MOU up to 365,000 per annum. Oh yeah, tons per annum, so like 1,000 tons per day. And I just put $600 as selling price instead of 1,000. Cost per ton. Again, just guesstimate, and then you get an annual EBITDA in USD. But this phase 2 thing, which included that deal with Veracel, and this is the part-owned company, 50% owned by Stora Enso, which is a Swedish/Finnish $10 billion market cap company. And again, it's like the Swedes and the Finns, they are serious. So that personally, I'm very happy to see that because, yeah, I mean, in terms of whatever business reputation, for example, I would say Sweden and Finland is like way up there in terms of quality and all that. So it's not a couple of jokers, and I doubt they're half-owned subsidiaries would be like a unserious player either. So to me, that's actually a pretty big deal. So they're working to like the base case sorted and washed raw product in a sense. I mean, it's upgraded, but only by wash and sorting. Just a base case like 500,000 tons per annum. Maybe they get $225 per ton. Yeah, $225 per ton. Cost, again, I don't know. There's obviously they have to pay for their royalty, and with their partners maybe they take a cut or whatever. So I took up the cost per ton to 150. Again, I don't really know. I think I had something to go on when I did this calculation, but I don't remember if I read up on it, or it's like, oh, what can one expect it to cost to like get it out of the ground, yada yada. But still, I think sell price, I think that's fairly accurate. I mean, that was what was in the presentation. Let's say $150. Obviously, these guys, Homerun wouldn't pursue this stuff if they didn't think it was going to make money. It makes no sense in setting up partnerships or plowing towards producing this stuff if they think, oh, we're going to lose money on it. So what the margin could be, I don't know. I just use 150, so it's like a $75 margin. If you do 500,000 tons per year, that's still 37.5 million USD in EBITDA. And what's that in CAD? That would be $52 million CAD, so that's half the market cap right now. Not fully basic, not fully diluted. Well, okay, I have to update the 59.4. So what's the market cap? 96. Yeah, so around a bit above half the current market cap. And I'm just playing around in this scenario. It's like, okay, EBITDA multiple of 8, because I'm assuming at 500 tons per day, I mean, that you could probably keep up for a very long time. So it's like, I mean, the resources enough, I think, for, well, let's say a few decades at least. So like, hey, that's 420 million CAD. If they just got a 500 tons per annum operation up, making $75 margin, 37.5 AK 56, I think it was, 54 million CAD per year in EBITDA, and you take 8 times that, which I don't think is outrageous. Am I saying that's absolutely gonna happen? No. But again, to have that to have that phase 2 pushed, like they're signing MOU after MOU and letter of intent, etc. So they're basically lining up everything, all the pieces they would need, from taking up the silica in the ground, which would be a very cheap operation, washing, sorting, transporting out via the ocean. Let's say they're shipping that to US, and the US is throwing tariffs at China. I mean, there was a thing out today. Well, they're tariffing, I think, Mexico, Canada, and China, Trump said they were going to do it anyway. Brazil is obviously closer, at least to the east coast of the U.S. than China is. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a pretty, let's say, I mean, this is a top 4 position in the HODL folio still. It's one of my larger positions, even though I'm not really a silica sand guy. But to me, it looks like a pretty convincing risk reward. Because I think they believe they can do this, and it's like if they only do this. I mean, if I get a whatever. I mean, excluding dilution, but let's say okay, you get a 3-bagger from the 500 ton per day base case that if phase 2 works. I don't know what the odds of that are, but I think like pretty high. If I remember correctly, Brian has talked about like, let's say, longer terms, like okay, 2 million tons per annum of raw supply. Well, that's 4 times this scenario. I don't know the margins, etc. But then you have the verticals, like this recent news release with the U.S. Department of Energy and Colorado School of Mines, and then you have the laser, and then you have, what else did I write up? I guess that's that one. Laser purification, that's the femto laser thing, which again seems to be working. High purity solar crucible manufacturing. Right, perovskite or perovskite. I don't even know how to pronounce it. My point is, again, this is what I like from my score. Is there a guarantee for anything? Is there a guarantee I won't be down in Homerun in 1 year or 2 years? No, there's no guarantee. Is there a guarantee I might lose my investment? No, technically there is no guarantee I won't lose my investment. But I can also see that they're again pushing towards at least the base case of like, raw supply but slightly upgraded, and they believe they can make money on that. So it's like, okay, well then you have a theoretical case like this, and that should probably make a pretty decent return. I mean, hey, if they can, I don't know, whatever. It's like trying to come up with something like 25 million in net profits just based on raw supply, and it's like, hey, I mean, over the long term, and let's dilute a bit to 150 million or whatever. It's like, yeah, I mean, then you almost have a perpetual dividend machine just from the raw silica supply. But the big thing, I mean, or I should put it, it does seem like they have a few company makers. I mean, if this happens, if they get a 500 tons per annum operation up and going with the upgraded raw sand, is that going to be like a 5 to 10 bagger? I don't think so. I don't expect so. But it's like, yes, is it possible that they can actually like increase this, twice or 3 times or 4 times? It sounds like they believe that's possible. Then we're talking just from the raw supply side. And then you have this, which I think is still like in the works, the CMEX, and that could be obviously a big thing. That could be a company maker, I think. And then you have all of these, like no idea if they're gonna happen, when they're gonna happen, yada yada. But it's like I like diversification, just stacking the deck in a sense, where it's like, let's say you have 6 avenues where you can win, and maybe win big, and there's also the possibility that not just one but more than one could happen. So you have a big win, and that just compounds because you have another big win, etc. It's like, oh, you get let's fast forward 3 years, you have like a 1 million ton per annum operation going with raw sand, and you're making good money on that, and then you have the CMEX deal going into effect or up and running, whatever. It's like, okay, you make compared to this market cap, you make a lot from that, and then you have the femto laser working out, and that's worth whatever. I mean, then you can have a sense where it's like, oh Christ, I mean, if one of these works, might be a good payday down the line, and might not take too long. I mean, just figure the news releases that could be out over the next 2 years. Is 2 years a long time? Really not in investing. I mean, my long-term goal is to have my portfolio compound at around 50% per year, or let's say 100% every 2 years, which is around 44% per year, which is obscenely high, and that's not something you could expect to do over the long term, especially as you have more money, let's say, because let's face it, I mean, if there was not for the private placement and stuff, I mean, if you had millions and millions to invest, it would be hard to get into Homerun even at this price if you even thought it was the best possible case you could find. But it's like, yeah, can I see Homerun having a good shot of like at least delivering 100% return over the next 2 years? Absolutely. And I know people would sneeze at that, and I'm not saying that's my base case that Homerun is going to go up 100%. I think it could go up a lot more than 100% over 2 years. But if you have that, it's like, okay, not the worst case, but it's like lower base case scenario. Do I think Homerun has a good chance of delivering 100%? And with the caveat being that it could deliver a heck ton of more than that, so which lessens the burden on the other positions, etc. Yes, I think so. But I mean, if you told anyone, seriously, if in this sector, or with any sector almost, if you said, I mean, or I should say, especially for people who don't know, really understand investing, who thinks that 100% in 2 years is too low, and that's why they're chasing crypto, because 100% can happen there in 1 week, which we've seen recently. That's why nobody really, I mean, makes any money in the end, or whatever. That's why I think crypto is going to implode anyway. Because 100% return, if you think that's quite probable in 2 years, and there's a spectrum of upside cases where that's like maybe much higher than that, that is a very solid case. If I could compound at that rate, that I could find cases that over 2 years they would double, and then I find a new case, put my money in, that on average my portfolio doubles every 2 years, I would get richer than Warren Buffett in like, I don't know, not too long, I was gonna say. But again, that's why you can't keep that up. The more, I mean, in the case of Warren Buffett, I mean, if you Berkshire Hathaway, if you're like 400 billion to deploy, it's like good luck getting into a home run story, for example, and have it mean anything to you. But yeah, I hope you get the point. As always, I'm not trying to, let's say, put a finger on or derive certainties. Everything is about probabilities. I mean, investing is really Schrodinger's cat scenario, and oftentimes Schrodinger's cat within Schrodinger's cat, because you don't know exactly what the news is going to be, so you don't know exactly what the fundamentals is going to be. Then you don't know what's exactly going to happen in the world. Then you don't know what exactly, for example, the price of the materials are going to be at a time in the future. Then you don't either know what the market is going to reward at. That's the thing. I mean, you have take a typical mining stock, an exploration stock. You buy it today, and you look, okay, what could have happened in 2 years? Well, if they make a discovery and they keep drilling that discovery, they keep getting money, it's growing and growing. It might grow for 2 years, and the sentiment in the sector might get better. So then you have a multiplier, like a blue sky type scenario, where it's like, oh, a junior just made a discovery. It turns out to be a company making discovery. It turns out to be let's say a tier 2 asset, at least. Plus, they are doing that in an increasing sentiment environment. So every additional ounce, let's say, or when they're adding on ounces, they get more and more for every ounce found as well. Well, then the stock price might be really high. But then you have a scenario, of course, where it's like maybe they did drill a discovery hole. 2 years later, it turned out to be, oh, it wasn't a significant discovery. They had some good holes, but it's not a tier 2 asset, for example. It's whatever, patchy mineralization or doesn't hold together, yada yada. And at the same time, the sector sentiment and the prices of the metals go down for the next 2 years. So I mean, you start off at the same starting point, and all you're doing is you have, oh, I think the risk reward is okay. I mean, the price is right for the risk I'm taking. There's a scenario where the risk you're taking, you're getting rewarded because it turns out to be a success, which nobody knows beforehand, but it turns out like that. And then you have an increasing sentiment, which nobody knew either was going to happen. And then you have one outcome. And then you have another scenario, another universe, like, okay, even if they made a discovery hole, didn't turn out to be a significant discovery. Plus, you have the sentiment in the sector just going down, shitting the bed, and all of a sudden, you, instead of being up 500% in scenario A, you're down 70% in scenario B. I mean, you never know. That's not what I'm in the market for. Otherwise, if I knew stuff, I would be all in stuff. You know, you don't know. I just try to put myself where it's like, okay, I can kind of see the the risk reward if I give it 2 years. Based on everything we know, I think there's a chance that it might amount to this or that, and okay, if even without understanding exactly the technology in a case like Homerun, for example, if you have institutions like that involved, it should be a pretty big deal. It sounds like it's a big deal. So, without knowing the exact details, you can tell. And of course, if insiders own quite a bit of the company, they have incentive to make it work because it's going to be hard to get yourself out of position anyway. It's not like they can easily flip, sell into sell in the market or whatever. So it's like, well, they're probably gonna do what's best for the company in that case because they have no other choice. Sonoro Gold had a recently got them on as a banner sponsor. I met John and Ken in Miami. I'm trying to remember if I met them in Stockholm. I don't think so. But I've talked about them before. So they're doing a small placement. I'm gonna try to find something to sell so I can participate a bit. I think it's a pretty simple case. I mean, very low capex project in Mexico. It got shot in the head basically, like every other Mexican juniors, as Mexico was looking to go very anti-mining. Then that changed, and they, like most juniors in Mexico, now they had a recent bump, yada yada. They're waiting for permits, but it's like, hey, again, quite a simple case. I mean, let's fast forward. Let's give it 12 months. Okay. Maybe they get their permits in 6 months. Okay. And given how low the capex is, it's like they could probably fund that going into production. Okay, then we have maybe 6 to 12 months of development. It's not the largest mine in the world, but let's say gold is around, I don't know, $2,700 when they go into production. Even with a small mine, again, that could be somewhat material. They have some mine builders on the team as well, so it's like I assume they can make a low capex, relatively small heap leach operation work, and then the idea is that they're going to prove that it's more of a 1.52 million ounce district. And again, given how high the gold price is and the margins of the gold miners, if you put a 20 million market cap junior, I don't know, let's say diluted to 50 or whatever, and you get a mine up and running and making like good bank on that, and even with that small production profile, and you expand it, so it's like you're showing, well, we have whatever, at that small production profile we have 20 years of mine life or something like that. I mean, hey, if and especially if gold goes up or whatever, it's like, okay, let's say they're making, I mean, I did some quick calculation on that. I don't remember what it came out to, but it's like, okay, half the market cap in EBITDA for 20 years. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty nice proposition. And then they could upsize it as they're growing and whatever. And it's like if they find 2 million ounces, all of a sudden it's like quite a meaningful mine. And obviously in a, I mean, we've already seen what like Eleanor got sold for, and that's it's a high production mine, but it's very high costs, short mine life, and all of that. Yeah, so again, quite simple. It's like simple, low capex operation, waiting for permits. If when they get the permits, they should be able to get it into production, and if gold prices are anywhere near here, with and margins anywhere near here, yes, I think you could make some money in Sonoro Gold. And if they prove up the um, exploration, I mean, if the exploration works out, and it's like, 3 years from now, it's obvious it's 1.52 million ounce deposit. It's like, I mean, why wouldn't Sonoro be trading in at least a few $100 million range? I mean, wouldn't be impossible. Oh yeah, okay. Goliath. I bought almost half. Okay, good explanation why the results take longer time. Basically, they get recommended to shift type of assay, hence lab, which should be 2-3 weeks until it starts. Advantage is that quiet time until next year gets reduced. Yeah. So now this latter thing I talked about, I didn't know that they recommend to shift lab. But then, I mean, then we're getting confirmation why it's taking longer, and that's what I said. I touched on Goliath recently as well. Now that it's dipped, and there's like, for all we know, nothing has changed. There's what 37,000 meters of drilling incoming, and it went from 1.35 down to $1. Okay, maybe it is because like the market assumes in a sense like, oh, bad news travels slow and all that. Okay, now we got an explanation. It's like, okay, we switch labs and all that. But it's like, I have a hard time seeing that like 36,000 meters of assays or meters of drilling and all the assays that come with that. It's like, given what the the visuals and all that, is it gonna be obvious when all those results are out? There's like, the Goliath or the Shorebet project is not worth 156 million. I think it's gonna be to the upside. Maybe it's kind of obvious then that it's like, this is like 4 or 5 million ounces or something like that, with more to spare, because they haven't drilled out every target. I mean, we'll see. There's obviously risk because it's a drill story and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the more interesting pure exploration stories out there. Simple as that. Mogotes Metals. I recently, when was that? Like 1-2 days ago. Because I found it interesting. It's like, I saw that I talked about it on K Report. I saw that they had, or that Philo Mining had drilled, and I talked about this. Okay, they hit the hole like 116. I think it was hole 116, right up near the border to Mogotes. And they said in the news release, you can listen to this yourself, confirmed that gold-rich porphyry. And I'm looking, and it's like, I think the stock was maybe the day after or same day, I'm not 100% sure. It was down 15%. Something like that. Okay, so we put out the video here. It's like, okay, today, 2 million shares traded, up 26% for a while. I don't know, it was maybe up 35%. It's like, and at the time there was, I mean, I just looked in the forum quite quickly, and it's like there was a lot of belly aching and whining. I mean, that goes with a declining share price. But again, it's like, okay, I'm looking at the news from Philo. It's like, well, this might be the best news yet for Mogotes, that Philo Mining confirmed a gold-rich porphyry right near the border to Mogotes. And the stock was down. And the day after, it's like, oh, I didn't get the memo. It's like, oh, 2 million shares traded. I don't know if Mogotes is going to be a fat success, but I know for sure that it makes no sense why the price would be down when it's like possibly the best news yet came out. And people are talking, oh, there's no plans yet, and yada, drill plans. It's like, hey, not too bad to just, I mean, it's not maybe, well, it is kind of exciting, but it's like, hey, if just that hole might have changed everything. It's like if you're making drill plans, like, we know that Philo Mining is drilling there. Let's say they have a guy up there. It's like, oh, I see a drill rig. That's Philo Mining. They're drilling towards us. It's like, wouldn't you want to know what that hole showed? Let's say, instead of like, oh, we're gonna drill this part of the project or this target. It's like, okay, then Philo comes out where it's like, confirmed a goldish porphyry, but it's the closest to the border. Hey, maybe we should put the focus like trying to extend what they hit, for example. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a surprise. Maybe that like they might be waiting and seeing. And it's like personally, I mean, if I was like I don't know Lundin or whatever, it's like I would just buy the company right now. I mean, yeah. Where's the? I thought somebody had. I can't find, but you can see the project map, and it's actually I think there's a pretty good one. Yeah, so here it's like okay, here you have NGX 1.8 billion. Here you have Filo del Sol, BHP Lundin 4.5 billion. Here you have what is it? 29, 20, 30 million. Mogotes. It's like, I mean, this is kind of more than a closeology play, neurology place. Like, world-class deposit, natural strike, many targets. Might there be something here? Well, they just drilled, I think, I don't know, here maybe or whatever. It's like, yeah, might there be something here? Yeah, I think so. It's like I saw somebody earlier shit talk Mogotes because like a neurology play, like a closeology play. Sendero was a closeology play, and Sendero I was actually in a private placement with Sendero. I think that I don't know how, I think they have done very poorly. They drilled and kind of missed, I think. They must have done a rollback as well. I mean, this was pumped big time going into assay results. I sold quite a bit. Well, that's what I think I talked about it at times. Like you have a share. I don't remember what price I got into it. Because I could see it's like, yeah, they had targets. They had, I think, some smart geologists involved in all that. It's like, is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. It's like high risk, high reward exploration. Then I did I think I talked about Sendero on YouTube where it's like, oh, well, price has gone up, but there hasn't been any news out yet. So for all I know, risk reward is going down. And again, it's like a lot of pumping. And it's like, of course, I wanted them to hit as well, but I can't, neglect the fact that, okay, on no additional information, and I think, what was it trading? It's like, I think they did maybe a 10 cent, Jesus, 1.2 million more, okay. I was going to say, well, that can't be right, because if they did a 10 to 1 rollback, this would be like 1.75 cents. And I was like, that can't be right. Because I think I remember it got up to like 40 cents. Yeah, even 47 cents. But if it's at 1.22 now, yeah. Yeah, that's not a pretty look. Excuse me. That's not a pretty look at all. I haven't even followed it for quite some time. Anyway, so I saw somebody. My point is that somebody wrote in the Mogotes like, neurology play. You look at Sendero. It's like, my point is like, there's a difference between neurology play and neurology plays. Like Mirasol is in the area. I mean, they're not too far off from here. Sendero had projects in the region, but it's not like nobody has, as far as I can tell. I mean, this is like the neurology place or neurology place. Like you have a literal trend, and they have the same trend, and it's not like they have it 40 kilometers away. They literally are bordering the player that has shown to have a, I don't know, 5 kilometer long ore body or something. I mean, I'm trying to remember. It's like, okay, what would be a better neurology play in a sense? I mean, yes, there might be some juniors that have like also a patch of land in some within some district or something. It's like, oh, you have a mine here and somebody owns this. Maybe, but it's like, obviously, just saying that, well, you saw what Sendero did, and they were a neurology play. Like, yeah, but they weren't even close to a neurology play like this. So, pointy again. It's like a lot of this is just common sense, but of course there might be people might be bashers. It's like, who knows? Maybe some shit talk sometimes is to simply get the price down because they think it's gonna go up later. I just refrain from doing that myself. Kind of one of the rules I have is like, I don't bash a stock I want to get in cheaper in. Because I mean, if we're it kind of goes back to crypto versus investing. I mean, if I need to, if the only way, let's say, to make money is that I need to bash a stock so I can get in cheaper, and then I need to pump it to make money, and let's say you sell on that, you just sell on the pump, you sell nothing. It's like you're not even waiting for the news items, for example. I mean, that's not even a replicable strategy, really, because if you really got up and made a lot of money, let's say you did it from doing that, I mean, how do you scale that when the companies get so big? It's like, are you gonna, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with something. No, it's obviously much easier to pump like microcaps, for example. But hey, I mean, how much money can you put in a microcap? So it's like, what are you going to do? So in the long term, you're still kind of shooting yourself in the foot. It's better to simply do the hard yards, in a sense, where it's like you learn how to actually invest. And it's like making money because you see something happening fundamentally for the company or whatever, and you're ahead of the pack, and you have the patience. You see stuff 6 months out and you're buying it now. When nobody gives a shit, and then that happens, and then you can whatever take profits or keep at it or whatever. But it's like something you can literally do without, let's say, artificially creating the situation. Meaning it's like, no, I have to bash the shit out of this junior so I can get in cheap, then I'm gonna flip, and then I'm gonna pump it, and that's how I make my money. I mean, then you're basically that's just purely making money on well, I was gonna say, I mean, just taking advantage of others, let's say. I'm not gonna pretend I don't ever pump stuff. I might not bash really ever, but it's like I drink my own Kool-Aid. Absolutely. Because the only reason I own a company is because I'm excited about a company. And I mean, some positions I can't even get out in a hurry, and then it doesn't matter, really. Oh, excuse me. In a sense, like, okay, can't even get out. What, you're gonna create a super pump? Good luck doing that in this sector sentiment, anyway. I'm getting off topic here, but yeah, yeah. I mean, if we're talking exploration stories, I would say Mogotes probably is one of the more interesting ones uh, right now. Is there a guarantee they're gonna find something? No, but we have evidence of multi-billion-dollar deposits along strike. Um, they might find nothing. I might lose all my money in Mogotes. They might find something. They might find something big. Again, I do not know. The idea is that if you buy an exploration story, let's say cheap enough, or I mean, sometimes you can buy obviously after a discovery. You don't buy as cheap, but with more information. So you think that okay, I might not have a shot at a 20 bagger, but now I have a good shot at a 5 bagger. I mean, that's also and sometimes makes even more sense. But you could obviously, if you do the somewhat shotgun approach, where it's like, yeah, I bet on 20 different high risk reward juniors. It's like maybe 5 of them works out, maybe less, but they're gonna pay for all the rest in time. I mean, it's like even Great Bear took what 3-4 years to 10 to 20 bag. So it's not like it happens overnight. And then you of course can't I mean, if you're on high risk high reward exploration stories, you can't, whatever, it's like you double your money and you sell out. That's not going to pay for all the failures. But yeah, so I have a position in this, not a position that's going to break me, but if this ends up, if we're lucky enough, it turns out to a major discovery. If they make a major discovery, if I wouldn't sell a single share, let's say, on the way up, yeah, it could have a quite meaningful impact to the rest of the portfolio. I mean, again, just looking at the market cap versus the market caps in the area. So yeah, again, don't, in my opinion, don't go betting the farm on these stories. But it's like because me right now, I much prefer the bird in the hand situation, where it's like I'm buying something that is worth X already, so I'm not taking risk that it could become it could be worth X. It is worth X, and I'm buying it for 0.2x. That's like whatever potential 5 bagger in hand already. Why do I need to go out and like take huge amounts of risk to get a potential 10 to 20 bagger? No, but some stories are like, well, okay, there's no bird in the hand, but it's like it's enticing enough. It's like the odds are not terrible. It's like, it might be a 20-30% chance that they actually make a significant discovery. And if it's cheap enough, it's like, yeah, I think you could do well not buying any exploration stories right now. But it's like, I want to have fun as well. And exploration and discoveries are kind of fun. And the idea of like, oh, imagine if they do a discovery and you were in at the beginning, but you can't be too greedy about it either way. But it's like just common sense, I would say, would dictate. I mean, if you're seeing this, is there some chance that this might host something as well? Yeah, I would think so. Was that the last one? No, okay. Hannan Metals, I also talked about that in the same, I think, same video as what was it? Mogotes. So the Hannan just got their DIA, I think it's called, permits to drill from 40 drill pads at Valiente. But I touched on that in the K report, and you can go through the presentation. I mean, the thing with the good and the bad thing with Hannan is that they have such a large land package or land packages, and they have an insane amount of targets and big targets and early stage targets. They could be busy for 10 years. That's how big their portfolio of projects is. And they could have no discovery. They can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 discoveries. They might have a new porphyry district for all we know. But the interesting thing when I talked to Lars is like, and I hadn't seen this in the slide deck before, but this is a gold in soil anomaly, and you can see the scale of this thing. and the high readings. Down here you obviously have gold anomalism as well, but it's like here you get up, all the way to the pink, and I don't know if just this across, what's that, like 7 kilometers? But let's say, 5 times 5. That's a huge anomaly. 25 square kilometers anomaly, in a sense. I mean, okay, that's absolutely enormous. And he said they believe this is an alkaline gold system. Well, that's a Lihir and Porgera type deposit type. We know that the alkaline gold system can be absolutely huge. We know at Fiji there's the Vatuk, no. The one that I think Friedland owned for a while. But there's like an 11 million ounce gold system there. We know Hannan Metals has a caldera, and obviously with the Tuvalu gold mine, and that's, barely explored outside of Tuvalu. The point is that this is an absolutely huge footprint of gold. They believe it's an alkaline gold system, and we know that alkaline gold systems can be up to like 40 million ounces. When will we know that? Well, they don't have the permits yet. If when they get the permits, how quickly will we have 40 million ounces? No, but it's like, yeah, so it's gonna take time. That's one thing to keep in mind. But that's why I think, and I said in the interviews, like, I consider this, one of those, almost a bit like Inflection Resources, like a hodl story where it's like they have so many targets, and yes, it's gonna take time, and now they can drill Valiente, or they're necessarily gonna hit there, no idea. They might, but it's like then you have Previsto, and then you have then they have Yogmek JV, then they have some, the one shot project, where's that, in Chile or whatever. They're gonna drill they have potentially a super gene blanket, so you're just gonna test that with like one drill hole. So they have a ton of stuff to test, and yeah, again, they could be busy like 10 years here, especially if they have success. So in a sense, it's like the best approach with these. I was gonna say, either I think you buy after a discovery, like you could do with Inflection, or you think, well, hey, I'm gonna put in money here. I trust the management team. It's Michael Hudson from his success with Mawson Gold, which has one of the best performing stocks, for example. It's like, okay, and he got Pierre Lassonde in that one, by the way. I don't know if Pierre Lassonde is in this one, but it's like, okay, competent people, good contacts, obviously good share structure, because it's like it's held up quite well. Look at the share price. So it's like, okay, you have one of those cases where like success is going to be rewarded big time. They're probably going to be able to raise money without seeing the share price down 70% and all that. So it's like you're not going to sleep too bad, whatever. And then you just make, let's say, I guess I'm going to, let's say, buy today, and then theoretically come back in 2-3 years, and you have no idea what could have happened during that time. Just put your faith in the management team, the amount of targets, and their willingness to make a success out of this. I think literally some stories are probably just best doing. You could theoretically say that's basically what you should be doing with the Lundin companies, for example. It's like, not that they go up every day or every week or whatever, but it's like, okay, Philo Corp. Oh, okay, all-time high, basically. Okay, here you had I don't know what they were doing back then though, but so you have like, what is that? 4 years doing basically nothing. Okay, and everybody was like, opportunity cost, man, this sucks. Opportunity cost, yada yada. Then, like typical Lundin fashion, eventually they make a discovery, and then boom, $32. and obviously well worth the wait. Well worth the wait. You would have crushed the mining sector, you would have crushed a lot of stuff. I mean, even here you would have crushed crypto or Bitcoin. NGX, well, they already had a deposit, so it's not the exact same. Oh, and I think Philo was a spin-out from NGX, by the way. Yeah, okay, 2020, not much. Oh, maybe something started to happen here. Okay, boom, and now it's at 2.56 billion dollars. So it's basically trusting the pilot or betting on the jockey, let's say. Obviously, they have to have a prospective land package to make a good discovery, but that's exactly what they've done. So they picked a prospective area, and then they were proven right that it was prospective and was lucky enough to find it. So in a sense, one could say that's what Hannan has as well. What appears to be a very prospective very prospective projects, plural, and you're betting on the jockeys. Like, I don't know when they're gonna make a discovery. I think they're eventually gonna make a discovery. Fire and forget. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. Consider me biased. I own shares of all companies I mentioned. Some are banner sponsors as well. Twice biased. Yeah, don't bet money you cannot afford to lose. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't bet on get rich quick stuff that can work once, but in the long run it's gonna bite you in the ass, and that's how you go broke. Not investing advice, not buy or sell recommendation, etc. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.